All right, Calvin, what are we working on?
Today we are going to make Oobleck dance, if I'm correct.
You're right. We're going to make Oobleck today, and then we're going to make it dance. And hopefully, eventually, we'll be able to make it such that it'll dance underneath a skull for Halloween. Well, the first thing we need to do is make the Oobleck itself. Fortunately, it's really easy to make. You need cornstarch and water. And the mixture of the two is 1 part water, 1.5 parts cornstarch. So in this case, I've measured out a cup of water and a cup and a half of cornstarch. We've got a mixing bowl here, so all this is measured out in fine fashion. To make this glow, what we're going to do is we're going to add the juice from some highlighters. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. One is you can just go ahead and pull the end off of this, like so, with some pliers. Just go pop like this, and you'll see that there's a bit of material in there that feeds the highlighter. This just slides right out. Now, you could try milking this into a bowl, which is the first thing that I tried. You can see right here there's some juice. The truth of the matter is you can just put it in the water right here and roll it around in the water, and the juice will come out and dissolve in the water, and as you're mashing it around with your fingers, it'll actually get more of the stuff into the water. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and just roll it like this in the water until all of the highlighter juice comes out.
Shall we pour this stuff in?
Yeah, I think we can.
Should I or should you?
Well, actually, what I'm going to do, in order to get the maximum amount, because first we did milk the highlighter into that bowl, and then we thought better of it, is I'm going to pour this bowl of water into that one so that we get all of the juice out of that bowl. Sounds like a good idea, right?
Yes. And kids, you can do this at home.
All right, awesome sauce. All right, so I've rolled that around for a while. Go ahead and squeeze out every last drop that we've got there. And unfortunately, it does make your fingers a little glow in the dark as well. I'm just going to pour this into the other bowl that I had originally prepared. So now we've got 2 highlighters worth of juice in there. We might have to add another one, but we'll see. So now we're going to start by putting the water in the bowl, and you can see it's a fantastic color, so it looks promising already. And you don't add all the cornstarch in at once, and you can start off by mixing this with a spoon, but the truth of the matter is eventually you're going to do this by hand anyway, so you might as well just
Begin with
get on with it. So we're going to go ahead and mix this through, and as we're mixing it, we're just basically breaking up any big clumps that are in here and spreading it around. Eventually it gets slimy rather than sticky, which is kind of nice. And so we just keep going, and you can see that the material has this great highlighter color to it, which is going to glow really nice once we turn on the black light. So as you're mixing it along, you're going to find that it's going to get thicker and thicker and thicker. But you'll know when it actually hits the right state, because it'll really change consistency.
I think I once actually did this with my science kit, made Oobleck.
Yeah.
And had it go in the dark.
So if you need to, just add a bit more cornstarch in here until it gets to the consistency you're looking for, and all of a sudden you'll notice that it changes really to be something a lot thicker than what you're expecting, but it'll still kind of move like a fluid. So one of the things you're going to notice as you're mixing the Oobleck is, and this is why doing it with your hand really works well, is as you stir your hand faster, it's going to feel like stuff is getting sticky around your fingers. But when you pick your fingers up, there's no lumps. And that's because as you move quickly through the fluid, it's actually hardening up. It's becoming more rigid. And so it gives you that very misleading feeling. And that's the part that lets you know that it's nearly ready.
Know this
Still-
as a fact.
It still drips like a fluid, but it really, when you start moving your fingers in it, it really gives a hard resistance to what you're trying to
Yes,
do.
it does.
Even though there's no big lumps. I mean, it feels like there should be like a lot of lumps in this, but
There is 0% lumps.
so that's when you know that you're getting that oobleck consistency, is when you try and stir quickly and there's a lot of resistance. You want to try and keep it so that it's still pretty thin, like a liquid, but then when you stir it with your fingers you can feel there's a lot of resistance. We're just going to add just a little bit more.
Should I try? Let me try that.
You want to try? All right.
Sure.
Go ahead and stir that. Stir your fingers around, like you're stirring it in a mix. Feel how it feels like you're working your way through something very thick.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a big lump of stuff there, right?
Well, not really like a lump. More like you're wading your way through molasses in a way. You know, like that sugar substance?
Mm.
That sugar, it feels like that in a way, like wading through such thing with your finger.
Okay, yeah, but it's
But
still
there's
thin,
nothing
right?
there.
There's
like,
nothing
it
there.
feels a bit like there's an object, even when I rub it, but
Yeah.
it acts like a liquid.
At some point, you won't be able to put more
In.
cornstarch in and have it dissolve, but you want to get it so that it really feels like there's just great big lumps of cornstarch left, but there isn't. And that's when you know you're getting really good texture for the oobleck. See, it's just all coming off my fingers. There's no big piles of cornstarch in here, but
And
it
when you
feels
rub
like
your fingers together, it feels like
it feels
like there's like the smoothest surface on earth. But
it feels like there should be a thick paste there, but it's still a liquid.
That felt awesome when it just dripped on my hand there.
Does that feel good?
Yes, it does.
So anyway, this is a very tactile material to work
and one
with.
thing, this is not for eating. Do not let little kids get near it.
Well, actually, with the exception of the highlighter fluid, it's perfectly edible. Right? Cornstarch, you eat cornstarch and all kinds of stuff. Water, you can eat water.
So basically, you can eat
totally-
anything except for when adding the highlighter thing. So, kids, you can eat this.
Just don't eat it with the highlighter. This is what it looks like when it's really well mixed. It'll be fairly thick, but then still pours like it's a liquid. All right, you'll feel a lot of resistance, and it'll feel like it's really lumpy, but it's really not. That's just this non-Newtonian fluid business coming to the fore. So when this is really thick, there aren't any major lumps that you can sort of pick out. That's the consistency that you're looking for. In many ways, your fingers are a better judge than something like a spoon or a fork or something like that, because they're going to give you sort of, they're not going to let you know that it's really uniform. But, you know, if you don't feel like sticking your fingers in it, you're missing out, but I understand. So one of the fun things is to actually put this on a speaker and watch the oobleck dance around. And at low amplitudes or low volumes, it'll just have this really nice pattern to it. But as you turn up the volumes or turn up the amplitude of the vibrations that the oobleck is being subjected to, what you'll find is that the oobleck will start to dance and put out feelers and tentacles and stuff, and it's really quite wild. And so we'll show you what that looks like. So once you've got your oobleck in a nice consistency, you need to have a speaker of some kind. Ideally, you'd start with something a bit bigger than this, but really it's whatever you've got on hand. And you need something to drive this. So in a later video, I'll show you how you can use an Arduino or an MSP 430 to drive one of these without having to commit some more significant electronics to the process. But for now, just to sort of test things out, I've got this speaker, which I took out of a subwoofer. I'll just show you what I've disassembled here. So this is a subwoofer that Bob tape brought into the makerspace. I've just sort of taken the subwoofer out of the case here. It also has two outlying speakers right here, but because we're working with something that runs at about 20 hertz, that frequency is really not going to come out of these speakers very well at all. So you need a much larger speaker in order to make this work. So this is the amplifier guts itself, and what I'm hooking it up to just for this test is an iPad. So you can get an app that is a function generator for an iPad that lets you set the waveform shape and the frequency, and so somewhere between 20 and 30 hertz is what you're looking for. And all I've done is I've taken my iPad and I've hooked it up using the headphone jack to the subwoofer, and then from there I can actually make the sound. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so we've got our speaker wired up, and you can put the Oobleck directly on the speaker itself if you don't care about ruining the speaker, but you can also put just a little bit of cellophane on there, and then take your Oobleck, which you've got right here, and just stir it up right before you put it on. You're going to see it's a very thick.
This stuff is Oobleck. What's a Oobleck? Well, it's basically, you know the juice in here? The juice is...
Just going to go ahead and put just a little bit on.
It's basically water and cornstarch with the stuff that, you know, that comes out of the cap of the bees. Yeah, in there. Everybody, this is probably blowing your mind. This is the results. When you put a speaker with Oobleck, take the speaker out, go like this, and you get tentacle Oobleck.
So when you're done with the Oobleck, you can just take the bowl and pour it into a Ziploc bag. Put it in the refrigerator. You don't have to, but cornstarch might go bad after a while. I don't know. I've had it lying around for a while and it's not had any problems. There we go.